it's Lara and welcome back to my crazy life. I think that's kind of how I used to do that. It's been a little minute since I've really attempted that, other than just the last video, I think, you know what I mean. Today we are actually talking about my crazy life, in a way, sort of. For anyone who isn't aware, I had a baby. On the 27th of April 2020, I gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. And today we're going to be talking about that. And it's going to be a little bit of a long one, just letting you know, because a lot happened. I mean, I gave birth, but it was complicated. And I have notes, lots of notes. So if I'm a little bit all over the shop, or flicky down and looking down and stuff, then that's why. I can't speak. But you all already knew that, so. Also, obviously, I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a midwife, I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor. I am speaking about this from the perspective of me personally and from conversations I've had with other people. So if I'm wrong and you are a doctor or a midwife or a nurse or something, feel free to tell me that I'm wrong. Like, I don't mind. If I am in fact wrong, just don't be a jerk about it. Anyway. So, on the 26th of April, on a Sunday night, at about 8 o'clock at night, I started to get cramps. At the time, completely unaware that they were contractions. I was like, oh, I'm getting a cramp, fine, no worries. Hurts a little bit, power through it. It was like a 3 or 4 on the pain scale, it really wasn't that bad. The cramps continued. At 9 o'clock I was like, oh, I'm gonna go in for a bath. I do not know why my dumb ass did not be like, hey, this is probably contractions. You're probably in labor. Because fun fact, I had literally been on medication from 26 weeks to 36 weeks to prevent me from going into early labor. So I don't know why I wasn't like, hey, this is probably that. But I wasn't. And so at like 9:30, I'm still in pain and the pain's starting, like the cramps are starting to get closer together. And at that point I was like, maybe. Until that point, I thought it was Braxton Hicks contractions. I was like, I'm fine. 9:30 comes around, I'm like, okay, this has been going on for like an hour and a half. Maybe, just maybe we should go to the hospital. And my partner was utterly convinced that I was not in labor because my water didn't break. Explaining to him that that's not how it works. That's not how it works was very interesting because he was like, no, it is how it works. Your water has to break. And I was like, no, sometimes the nurses, they break your water. And he was like, no. Yes, my water was broken by the nurses. Not everybody's water breaks. If you didn't know that, not everybody's water breaks. Anyway, so I got into the hospital at like 10 o'clock and I was small, by the way. So I didn't look like I was 9 months pregnant. I don't know, if she feels like it, I might get my editor to put in a photo of how big I was at my biggest. But yeah, I didn't get very large, so I didn't look 9 months pregnant. I walked into the emergency room and I was like, I walked up to the reception desk and I literally said, I think I'm in labor. And the nurse behind the counter, because I was like, I think I'm in labor, seemed unbelieving, unconvinced. Sorry, somebody just walked past. She was like, oh, you think you're in labor? And right at that moment, I had a contraction and I keeled over in pain and looked at the nurse and said, how the heck am I supposed to know? I've never done this before. I used a lot more of an aggressive word there, but this is YouTube. And she was like, oh, okay, you're probably in labor. Let's get the security down to come get you. And they came down with a wheelchair to get me. And then my partner was still parking the car, to be honest, so he had like drove me to the emergency doors and he went and parked the car. And my child was making noise, so you get to see her. Here she is. Very cute. No, it's in focus, it's fine. I was sitting in the wheelchair waiting for my partner to park the car. Yes, we were. She's going for a teddy bear behind the camera. There you go. And so we get in and I'm sitting in the wheelchair and then I had another 2 contractions and the security guard was like, nah, you are gonna have this baby. We got to go. So I get wheeled up to the maternity ward And then I get wheeled in and I come in and he's like, I got a patient for you. And the midwife looks at me and is like, are you term? Which means like, are you like full term? Like, 9 months pretty much. She basically asked me if it was even possible that I was in labor. And I was like, 38 weeks. So yeah, because I was 38 weeks on the Monday. Like I would have been 38 weeks the next day when she came. So then she was like, oh, we got to put you on a monitor. I shit you not, this midwife wheels me into a room, puts me on the bed, starts strapping things to my stomach. No words, nothing. She hasn't said anything to me. She's just, we're gonna put you on a monitor. Wheels me in, starts strapping things to my butt belly, and then leaves. Just leaves, just walks out of the room. I don't know what the monitor is, I don't know what's happening. She just leaves. She comes back like less than a minute later with my partner, because he's like, park the car and come in. And then she explains to my partner and me that I have to be on this baby monitor for 20 minutes to see if I'm in labor. And I'm like, you seem to be the only person in this hospital that doesn't think I'm in labor. Anyway, she leaves again. She comes back 5 minutes later and she says, okay, we're having a baby. I'm like, no shit, Sherlock. My partner's surprised because up until this point, he still didn't think I was in labor because my water hadn't broken. And then she gave me Panadol. Now, if I'm wrong about this, tell me, doctors, people who have given birth, but as far as I was aware, leading up until this point and in all of life, the options for pain relief during labour was that you would come in and that they would say to you, do you want the epidural, the green whistle, or the gas? And I had intentions of the green whistle, because I know that I respond well to the green whistle as far as pain, as far as morphine, it knocks my pain out really well, and I also know that I don't need as much. I can get off on morphine really well. She told me I could only have Panadol and I had to work my way up through the pain, which I'm just pretty sure is not a thing. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that they don't have to give you Panadol. You're allowed to have something stronger than Panadol. You're in labor. But that's what she gave me, and then we went to the birthing suite. And at first, my contractions were not that painful. They really weren't. But then the pain started to get really intense, really strong, and like a different pain. It felt like she was just beating me up, beating the crap out of me from the inside. And so I asked for more than Panadol. I was like, give me something, like this is bad. She gives me the gas and I'm pumping on it, and we're, pushing, doing this, doing that. And I got into the birthing suite at like 10 o'clock. So for about an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours, I was in the birthing suite with my midwife, yelling at me constantly to push, and telling me to shut up pretty much. So I kept screaming out in pain. Like my pain kept getting more and more intense and changing in the feeling so that it really felt like I was okay. Really felt like I was being punched or kicked or something. Like the pain was really changing. It didn't just feel like cramping anymore. And I was like trying to tell her this. I was like, it's really hurting, it's really severe, blah, blah, blah. And I kept screaming at the pain, and my midwife kept yelling at me, getting right up in my face and saying, you need to hold your breath, be quiet, and use all of your force to push. And I was like, I am pushing. Like at this point, I got to the point where I was involuntarily pushing, and I was like, I could not be not pushing if I wanted to not be pushing. And she's still yelling at me. And so I was in the bath in the birthing suite towards I had been pushing, yelling, screaming, cowering on. I was in so much pain. And then she's like, all right, we'll go in the bath, blah, blah. We're sitting in the bath. And I'm sucking on the gas and I'm like, this is not doing anything. Like, I need more than this. And she's like, you need to puff on it longer. And I said, midwife, I literally look at the midwife and I say, I cannot do this. Knock me out and cut her out. Because I was in so much pain. She looks at me and she says, that's not how this works. And then she looks at the monitor and says, oh, the baby's heart rate's dropped. We're gonna get you out of the bath. I'm like, what? She pulls me up out of the bath, she pulls me onto bed, and she does her third internal exam on me in the 2 hours that I've been in the room. It's almost midnight now. And she does her third internal exam on me. And she says, you're still only 7.5 centimeters dilated. Which, if you know anything about labor or anything about pregnancy, you need to be 10 centimeters dilated to give birth vaginally for it to be safe. But also you dilate a centimeter, you dilate progressively through time, and you're supposed to dilate rather quickly to a certain degree. When she said I was still 7.5 centimeters dilated, that's how dilated I was when I got to hospital. 2 hours, I hadn't moved, I hadn't changed. 2 hours. Now, I'm pretty sure that's just medically atrocious, because she does the internal exam and she's like, oh, I think we need to get a doctor in. She calls the doctor comes down, and the literal first words out of his mouth, he gives the midwife a look that I'm now 100% sure was him being like, why didn't you call me sooner? Because he walks in the room, he gives the midwife a look, and he says to me, stop pushing please. And I'm like, I wish I could. He does an internal exam and he informs me that I'm pushing against a somewhat closed cervix, and that's why the pain has changed and I'm in so much pain, and then I have to go for an emergency C-section now. And then also this was the most terrifying thing I think will ever happen to me in my life, to be honest, because I did not think this was real. I thought it only happened in movies and it was scary as crap. He was like, we're taking him for an emergency C-section now. He yelled at my midwife to put an IV, and he yelled at somebody else to put in a catheter, cannula, whichever one the P one is. I'm sure you know. And so they got that line in, and my midwife was literally struggling to get my IV in, although that's pretty common, I have hard veins. And he was like, I don't have time to wait for you, and he yanks up the bed rail and starts running. I did not think that that was a real thing doctors did. I thought that was just dramatics in movies where they jogged through the hospital. There was literally doctors holding my bed and running. We were running. That was terrifying. The single most terrifying thing that I've ever gone through in my entire life was doctors literally running me through a hospital. 2 seconds later, I was in the OR. And the doctor was like, we don't have time for an epidural. I was like, I don't know what that means. A nurse came over with a face mask and said, we're gonna put you to sleep now. No, that's it, that's all. Black. I literally after this asked my partner the next day, because I've never had surgery or anything like that before. I've never been under general anesthesia. I was like, hey, you know how in the movies they count down from 10? Is that real life, or do you just get knocked unconscious? And he was like, no, you count down from 10, why? I was like, because I did not. They put the mask on my face and I was night-night. They did later tell me, the midwives and doctors, that's because they pumped me full of a ton of anesthesia because they needed to cut. Like, I could feel them pressing the area. They cut as soon as I was unconscious. We went into the OR at midnight, and she was born at 3 past midnight. And retrospectively, the doctor, when discharging me, even apologized and said that we should have had me in for a C-section a lot earlier, and that I could have potentially been awake and not have had such a horrific C-section. But I, in fact, didn't wake up for like 3 hours after it because of general anesthesia and because I'd never been put under before. So I was unconscious for 3 hours, and then I was given morphine, and I was told that I could not go see my daughter until I was off the morphine. And they forced me to keep the morphine needle for like 12 hours or something. And it's so funny to me because when the anesthesiologist came to get the morphine needle back off of me, he asked the nurse if I'd had a refill, and she was like, no. And he was like, she hasn't even used half the needle. That's insane. Where's her pain? And I was like, I'm not in any pain. And I was like, kept telling the doctors that I'm like not in any pain, because I just really wanted to get down there to see her, but I also wasn't in much pain. And the doctor came in to like talk to me, blah blah blah, and I was like, yeah, morphine and me, we're friends. It knocks my pain out like that. I only need a little bit. My pain's gone. What pain? No pain. And the doctor was like, oh, why didn't you ask for morphine then? I did. I was told no. So mad AF, because I did actually ask my midwife for morphine. I was like, give me the morphine, and she was like, we gotta start on gas, honey. Well, actually, she was like, we gotta start on Panadol. So, now obviously, what I talk about this from a retrospective point of view of the whole thing and my lack of knowledge going into it. I had no idea what to expect as far as the actual step-by-step procedure from my midwife. And as far as I'm concerned, for lack of a better word, I had a traumatic birth because of my midwife. Now, traumatic birth is just what we call them. We don't have a better word than traumatic for that. It wasn't like, obviously it wasn't like an actual trauma, but you know, I I was 7.5 centimeters dilated the entire time that I was in the hospital. And my big problem is, and if you're a midwife or a doctor, you can tell me why she responded like this, but my biggest problem is that my midwife did not ask me anything about the time that I was at home. I unknowingly had been at home in active labor for an hour and a half. She didn't ask me at all. She didn't ask me anything about that. She asked me if I'd counted my contractions, and I said I didn't know they were contractions, and then she just stopped asking me questions. She didn't really even talk to me. She didn't investigate at all. She knew like nothing, and I retrospectively found out that the reason I was in such an excruciating pain and that everything went so horribly bad is because I at home had gotten to 7.5 centimeters dilated, and then I stopped dilating. And normally if you stop dilating, they take you in for a C-section. She waited until it was literally harmful, like potentially dangerous for both me and the baby to get us in for a C-section. She even, in fact, Stella ended up, this is gross and TMI, but actually pooping inside of me because of the stress, and so then we both had to be on antibiotics for 2 weeks because apparently that can cause a lot of serious illnesses. So, like, the doctor was very apologetic to me, and I think I just want to share this experience so that people know that, like, I don't think every midwife is made equal, and I think that we shouldn't have an issue with discussing and sharing stories about midwives, and that we should all really, like, get the courage to say I want a different midwife, because I wanted so badly to punch her in the face while I was sitting there in the chair and she was screaming at me. I wanted to ask for another midwife, but I was too scared. And if I had have asked for another midwife when she was yelling at me to be quiet, maybe that midwife would have sent me in for a C-section. Maybe that my midwife would have listened to the fact that I was in pain. Maybe that midwife would have asked me how long I'd been in labor for. Maybe that midwife would have paid attention to the fact that she'd done 3 internal exams and I hadn't dilated any further. I don't know. But, yeah, so if you think you're in labor, you're probably in labor. I think, you know, it's probably better to play it safe than the other way around. Like, I really thought, I don't want to go to the hospital and them say it's Braxton Hicks and have to come back and be annoying and a waste of time on them. That was stupid. That was dumb on me. I should have gone just in case. And if it was Braxton Hicks, it was Braxton Hicks. Yes. Okay. She agrees. I should have been more firm about my pain management, I think, because I really should have just been like, no, give me morphine or get out. Because I'm pretty sure, but I mean, if you're a professional who's had a baby, please do let me know if I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure I was allowed to just say, give me your morphine. And my midwife was just like, no. I wasn't paying attention to the fact that she said I was only 7.5 centimeters dilated. I wasn't listening so much because I was like really in the moment, just like pushing in pain, whatever. And I know you need to be 10 centimeters dilated and all of that. So if I had paid more attention to her telling me, come here, I'm definitely going to go into the next baby with a lot better plan and spend a lot more time talking to my doctors and things, because I really thought that I would be able to wing it. But I mean, she made it. She's happy. She's healthy. She's loud, as you can see and hear. And yeah, I really lost my train of thought there, but I'm pretty sure I talked about everything that I wanted to talk about in this video. So I guess that me and this little princess might catch you next time. I thought that would be cool, but it just went out of focus.